Hi, I'm Meg Faure, and this is the Checkers Baby Vlog. This week we're going to be talking about the issue of childcare, which is something that most of us have to think about for our babies. Whether it is that we're going back to work very soon after our baby is born at around 4 months of age, or whether it's 2 years down the line that we're looking to send our child to nursery school. And today we're going to have a look at all the different options and really what works best for your baby. Now, before we get started, I do need to preface this conversation by saying that I know that everybody has different pockets. And for some of you, the options will only be to have your baby in a large creche, the most inexpensive option. And what you do need to understand is that that can really work for your baby as long as you follow certain principles. On the other hand, some of you will be looking for an au pair or a nanny or a day mom, and we'll have a look at those options too. So in getting started, let's talk about what the different options are. So the different options for childcare is one of the first options, and one that I really love, is actually using your family. So your sister-in-law, your mum, a granny, a great granny to look after your little one. Second option would be a nanny at home, usually a domestic worker who would be working in the home as well as looking after your little one. Option 3 would be a day mom who would have a couple of little ones with her and look after them in a group in her home. And then, of course, we have an au pair, which is a fairly pricey option, an option where somebody comes into your home who's very well trained at looking after little ones and looks after your little one on her own. And then we go into a creche situation, which can be anywhere from 4 to 20 babies or even more, with a certain number of carers looking after them. And then, of course, we're into nursery school. So that in a nutshell covers all of the different options that are available to us as mums. And of course, there is the option of us staying at a home or having an at-home dad, both of which are absolutely fabulous. So if we're looking at childcare for our little ones, what are the principles that we need to consider? Well, first of all, let's have a look at choosing childcare for babies under 1 year of age. And we're going to come through to these 3 options that I personally like a lot for babies under 1 year of age. And that is a nanny or an au pair, somebody who's one-on-one with your baby, a domestic worker who's with your baby while you're at work, or a granny who can look after your little one. Now, the reason I think that those 3 options are very good for little ones under a year of age is that new babies have very specific needs, and they're not necessarily needs that can be dealt with en masse. And some of these critical needs are, they need very specific times to sleep. And it's very easy to slot a toddler, for instance, into a one-size-fits-all sleep approach. So all toddlers, let's say, would sleep at 12 o'clock. But it's very different for a 4-month-old, where one baby might have woken at 6 a.m. and another one only at 8 a.m. And of course, they would have very different times for their first sleep. So the idea there is to have a unique sleep program for your little one, which is very hard to do in a very big setting. The second thing about little babies is that they can't talk, and so making their needs met, they have to use signals. And understanding a baby's signal is very tied to somebody who's going to actually stop and read the signals and know that baby on their own. And so when you're in a group setting, a creche, let's say, for instance, of 24 babies with 3 carers, it's very hard for them to take care of each child's individual needs according to their signals. So for those 2 reasons, it's very important that little babies have very, very small groups. And that is why I think that babies do best in their own home, being cared for one-on-one, if possible, or maybe 2 or 3-on-1. And so our first option is an au pair. An au pair is a very expensive option. It's probably the most expensive of the options because an au pair is generally highly trained. She'll look after your baby as an individual, and she's not having to focus on anything else. So you would need to be earning a good salary to afford that. Option number 2 that we spoke about, and just to take you back to those pictures, there they are. Option number 2 is a nanny or a domestic worker. And I've got to tell you, I think we are spoilt in South Africa. We have the most wonderful other mothers who look after our children. And so having a domestic worker look after your children is a very good idea. She needs to be trained in CPR, and she needs to have a love for little ones. And she also needs to know, very importantly, that the domestic work that happens in your home, like making the beds and making the meals, is secondary to looking after your child if your little one is small. And of course, option 3 is a family member. So if you're not able to be there and the dad is not able to be there, a wonderful option is an auntie or a granny who can look after your little one because they love your little one just like you do. So in my experience and my feeling on this is that if you can, in the first year of life, keep your baby at home, keep them away from the germs, keep them with one-on-one attention, and make sure they can be in their own routine. Of course, that's not always a possibility. So let's have a look at what happens when you introduce your baby to a creche. And creches certainly do come into their own as your baby gets a little bit older. So for 1 to 3 years old, you will find that your little one might be in a creche situation where there are lots of other little ones with a number of carers. So there's nothing wrong with the creche situation. You just need to make sure that the creche works well for your little one. So one of the principles for 1 to 3 year olds, and certainly for babies under that I would really recommend that you adhere to, is a ratio that's to your baby's advantage. And that ratio of teachers to babies is 1 teacher or 1 carer to maximum of 4 babies. That's a 1 to 4 ratio. And that's the ratio that we like to suggest. So that means that you would have 4 babies with 1 carer, or for instance, 8 babies with 2 carers, 12 babies with 3 carers. So you really do make sure that the ratios are right. And the reasons that's important is for exactly what I said just now. Babies have individual signals, they have individual moods, they have individual routines. And by having a ratio of 1 to 4, you'll make sure that there is always a carer who's really able to focus in on your little one and make sure that she is able to be taken care of with the attention that she requires. The best places for that to happen is with a day mom. A day mom is a person who has her own children, maybe at school. She's maybe a little bit of an older mom, and she'll take babies into her home and look after them in her home. And that is a wonderful option because generally she'll only take in 4 children. If she's taking in 8, she must have another carer who's with her. And she will be able to cater in a home environment for your little one. So give her the right meals, make sure she has her sleeps at the right time, and give her the individualized love and attention that is so important for your baby under 3 years of age. So day mom is a wonderful option if you can't have a look at having a domestic worker or having an au pair at home. So first prize all the way up to 3 years of age is 1 person. Second prize would be to have a 1 to 4 ratio in a day mom situation, and then go on to a creche situation. And this is often where you'll end up if you've got your hands are tied in terms of your finances, you'll end up in a creche situation. So if you end up in a creche situation, make sure that you choose them very carefully. Make sure that the carers in the creche situation are trained in CPR. Make sure that they have a real love for little ones. So how do you test that? Well, when you walk into the daycare or creche situation, you want to take your little one in and see what they do with your little one. The teacher and the carer should instantly get down on the floor, make eye contact with your little one and engage with them, almost more than they engage with you, because they need a love for little ones. So that's very important. The second thing is to make sure that the space is absolutely clean and very safe. No uncovered pools, no access to open toilets that babies could drown in. Making sure that there are no open plug holes when you look around the room. Making sure that there are no animals in the room. These are very important principles for the cleanliness of your baby. And then, of course, you can let go of them and understand that they will be cared for just as well there as they possibly would be at home. The third option then comes in when your baby reaches 2 years old, 3 years old and onwards, and there we're going on into a large creche situation, and there you want to make sure that there's a program that is structured, that stimulates your little one, and where your little one can really engage with their environment and learn and play and socialize. So those are the principles for choosing childcare for your little one. One of the other little tips I'm going to say is that you're going to have a hard time the first time you leave little one. There's no doubt about it. Your little one's also going to have some trouble navigating being separate from you. One of the important things that you need to do is make sure you always say goodbye. Give them lots of love and cuddles. Act very positively towards the teacher or the carer or the nanny you're leaving them with. Don't leave in a fluster. Even if your nanny arrives late, don't leave fighting with her. Leave positively, say goodbye to your baby and go off to work. And when you come back, make sure that you have a wonderful reunion so that your baby knows that these separations are normal, they're healthy, and they are met with a wonderful reunion. So really, good luck with leaving your little one in childcare. These are some of the principles. I really do hope they help. We'll see you next week on Checkers Baby Care.